Being a great acrylic artist is all about bead control. Often during my videos when I'm doing acrylic specifically, I sometimes just need a little piece of acrylic down in this little spot, and I will refer to it as the size of a grain of rice. Well, I've decided to gather some things here and give ourselves a product control challenge to gather the bead to match the item on this other side here. So I've got myself some items here, and I'm going to jump right in and create the beads. Now, creating the size of beads is something we are challenged with every day at the nail table when we're sculpting acrylic specifically. We have to gather that much bead that we need to put in that spot or the design that we're creating, or just a little bit here or there to fill a corner or a color we might be adding. I've got myself a dried cranberry, a blueberry, a pumpkin seed, a sunflower seed, and a little pea from a pod, and a corn before it's popped, and a little grain of rice. Now, these are the size of beads that you actually would create when you're making acrylic nails. Sometimes you need a really big one. Sometimes you need a little tiny piece. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how you do that. Now, it's all about the monomer in your brush controls the size of bead you're going to have. Now, there's variations, and I'll just quickly tell you. I'm going to get my brush nice and wet here. I'm soaking it in the monomer, absorbing it up, getting rid of the bubbles in my brush. Now, if I want a very big bead, which is much like this cranberry here, I have to spread my brush out a little bit. I'm not going to actually tap off at all. I'm going to spread it out, gather, and the amount of monomer that's in my brush and ever how long I leave it in the powder will determine the size of the bead, and the right consistency is the key, right? So even if I don't have as much monomer in my brush and leave it in the powder for a super long time, I'm just going to have a dried up, ugly old bead. If I gather too much monomer and then go into my powder for too long, it might just be so heavy it falls off. So I'm looking for the exact consistency of the type of bead that I want. So it's not running. I don't want to chase my beads. And the amount, the size of the bead that I'm looking for. So to create that cranberry sized bead with the right consistency so it's not running everywhere, I have to really understand how much monomer I'm gathering in that brush and the angle that I'm going to use it at. Then I'm going to dip it in the powder and we're going to gather. So the first bead is going to be very big. So I'm not going to tap off at all. Now, when would you need a bead that big? Only maybe when you're doing a clear cap. Let's say you've built a nail, it's quite a bit on the long side, and you've, maybe it's a glitter, and you need to clear cap the whole thing over. This is the time when you would gather a really large bead. So let's do that, and we're gonna try to match that dried cranberry size bead. Okay. Ooh, that's looking pretty good. That's a nice size bead, and you see how it's not running everywhere? It's basically maintaining its shape, it's absorbing into itself, and it's a very happy bead. That's good. Okay, so now we've got ourselves a little blueberry. So this might be the amount of bead that I'm going to need if I'm creating a free edge, maybe making a French glitter, a French white, whatever you want. And it could be the size of bead that you're using for maybe a nail fill when you're rebalancing the nail. Okay, so I'm going to gather that size of bead and just take a good look at that. That's the size that I'm looking for. And I just now am going to gather. I still need a fair amount of monomer in my brush, so I'm not going to tap off too hard at all. See the angle that I'm holding at? So it stays more the end of the brush and it's gathering a really nice size bead. And that's going to match quite nicely. That's lovely. Look at that. And it's just staying where it belongs, right? Because it's a good ratio bead. Now, I'm just going to show you quickly what that might look like if I have too much monomer in there. So I'm just going to show you what that might look like. Oopsie, it didn't even make it. It actually fell. It was so wet and heavy. Okay, so that's when it's got too much monomer in it. You can see it's just kind of flowing and it's not very happy. That's what we don't want. Okay, that gives you a really good idea. I'm also trying to copy the shape of it too, right? So this one's kind of a bit longer, so I'm going to actually apply it a little bit differently. Sometimes when you are applying a bead on a nail, you don't want like a perfect plump little circle. You might want a more of an oblong situation because maybe you're putting it on the side or you want it to be across the apex. You don't want to put it horizontally across the apex. You want to do it more vertically right down the nail. that's when I would use a bead that would look just like that. So I'm going to try to flatten out my brush a little bit. Maybe the shape might be a little bit more flat. You see that against there? Okay, so I'm going to get my bead, widen my brush a little, and I'm going to gather it in sort of a different shape. Okay, I'm going to get that guy and put him right there. Okay. Now I've got this as a little sunflower seed. Okay, this is a sunflower seed. This is quite a bit smaller. That's nice. Okay. And then we've got this round little ball, and sometimes you do just want to get some height right in the center of that nail. Nice little ball. Okay, and now we've got our popcorn. Okay, the popcorn's quite a bit smaller, but it's a nice round little bead, so we need less monomer in our brush. Because remember, the monomer decides the size of the bead. Okay, we got our little grain of rice left. And this is just a grain of rice. Sometimes I'll even get a bead that's half the size of that grain of rice. But let's go for the little grain of rice. So I'm going to be using much, much less monomer. Trying to get it flat. Okay. So when I'm doing it on a flat surface, it's harder at the angle. When I do a nail, I can scoop it off and make it the shape. So I just shaped it up like a little rice. Look at that. Okay, so I hope that demonstrates how important the bead control is and the consistency of that bead. Remember, it's all about how much monomer you have in your brush. Ultimately, how long you leave it in there to obtain the right bead consistency. So you have them, not this guy. You want to get rid of that one. But all these guys are exactly what you're looking for. You don't want to chase that bead. Getting the right consistency right from the beginning will make your job learning acrylics so much easier. This is all a part of learning how to do acrylic nails. If you try this, let me know in the comments how you did on this particular challenge. See you in the next video.